Today we're actually filming it on a Wednesday, but I'm very happy to be joined by Randy and Wes, who are the creative brain trust, or part of it, behind Friday the 13th, the game, which is a Kickstarter that's live right now. It ends on November 13th, which is Friday the 13th, which captured my attention in the first place as being a very smart ending date. Quickly about their project, it launched a couple weeks ago. As of today, they have 9 days to go. They've raised over $600,000 against a $700,000 goal from over 9,000 backers. And of course, if you're not familiar with Friday the 13th, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. You should be watching the movie, but it's a classic slasher film, and this is a really innovative video game based on it. So, Randy and Wes, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I don't know which of you wants to sort of jump in, but can one of you guys give me the quick 10,000-foot overview of what the game is and why you guys are on Kickstarter?
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind to do that, and then and Randy can jump in and talk more about the Kickstarter, since he's sort of behind the scenes there, managing all the moving parts of that. But so we started out as a small little indie game called Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp. And it was our homage to slasher movies from the 80s. That was Friday the 13th, but it was also several other slasher films of that era. And yeah, we just started designing this game. We started releasing some artwork and some screenshots and some explanations of what the game was about, which is there's one killer. There are 7 counselors running around this campground, and you either take on the role of the killer or take on the role of the counselors. And a lot of people seem to like that idea within the video game industry. We got a lot of press from it, and then our phone rings one day, and Sean Cunningham, the original director of Friday the 13th. I have to say we were a little nervous at first because we thought maybe we had danced a little too close to the fire because we were definitely writing a love letter to Friday the 13th. It just so happened, though, that Sean was ready to accept said love letter. And so we already had a strong team put together, and we were definitely very excited that Sean was wanting to work with us and bring us the license, and he did so for free, which is pretty much unheard of in the world of video games or Hollywood entertainment as a whole. That just doesn't really happen, but it's because he saw the vision that we had, the direction that we were going with, the team that we had put together. Because I already had Kane Hodder, the guy that had played Jason Voorhees. I already had Tom Savini, the practical special effects icon in the industry, and the guy that created Jason. And I had Harry Manfredini, the guy that did all the music for the Jason movies and created that creepy sound that you hear when Jason appears. So I kind of already had the team together. I was just missing those 2 pieces, Sean and the license. But I didn't set out to do that. When I was making Summer Camp, I just wanted these guys because I thought these guys are cool and they make cool stuff. Let's work together. So it was just sort of a right place, right time sort of scenario, and we were pretty stoked about it because we didn't have the budgets that would be required to pay for a license like that. Like it's not who we are. We're a small team. So we were pleasantly relieved when he said, no, you don't understand. This is out of respect for what you guys are doing. You're going to do this thing right. It's in good hands, so there's no charge to do that. So that was really awesome. So we already had a prototype. We were already building this game called Summer Camp, and we already had the set pieces there that we wanted. And then the license fell into our lap, and so we're like, oh wow, this sort of changes some things. It changes some of the design a little bit. It changes some of the art, of course. It's going to change how we do motion capture. It's going to change, because playing just a generic killer, that was still being, created for this other game, Summer Camp. Now we have the killer, Jason Voorhees, and he has a signature way that he kills. And each one of those are actually different in all the films. So we want to make sure that we're doing that right for the fan base, because if there's any fan base that's going to call foul early, it's horror fans / gamers. And if you're looking at that sub-genre, they're going to be even more hardcore about making sure that we do everything exactly right. But the good news is we're just as much of horror nerds as they are, and so we're doing this thing right, all the way down to the types of scratches that you see on Jason's mask, where are they in the film? Make sure it's the exact way in the game. So no stone left unturned for sure. So that led us to pretty much where we are today, which is, well, if we're going to do this thing right, we could go to publishers, which we did. We went and met with video game publishers and said, here's this opportunity. And they wanted a little more watered down version of what we were going after. Some have actually wanted us to try to make it a rated T for teen instead of a mature rated title, which there's no way I could look up myself in the mirror every day if I made a Friday the 13th game that was rated T for teen. Just not interested in that. So it sort of dawned on me, as well as Randy and other guys here at the team, which was, why are we going to non-fans with different motives and asking them for money when we can go directly to the fans that are just as passionate as we are about this and saying, hey, you have the same motives that we do. We want something that's kick-ass. Like, can you help us with that? So that was the entire, genesis of why we even went to it. It wasn't, like some kind of money grab or anything like that. Like, not even the case. It was more just, we want this game, you want this game. This is the best way that we know how to make this come to fruition without something that is going to be more watered down or potentially not as fun.
Very cool. And Randy, can you just share with us a little bit about what it took to decide to bring it to the fans? What did it take to actually make that happen?
As far as the fans, we've been, I personally have been planning the Kickstarter with several of the other people here for probably about 2-3 months. I've been looking into Kickstarter since 2010 on the site. I've backed over 100 by now. So really, it's been a long time coming. I never knew I was gonna need to do it. So getting this opportunity and getting to connect to the fans directly in the Kickstarter has been pretty amazing.
Very cool. Well, I want to talk quickly about two things. One, Wes, you talked sort of around this idea that I'm big on, which is authenticity. And clearly you guys are authentic in your motives, so much so that you got the license for the game, which I think is, if there's any indication that you guys are on the right track and have a product that was great for crowdfunding, that. How did you go about trying to translate and communicate your authenticity about the product you're creating and about your motives to the community so that they could get excited about it?
Well, first and foremost, it's looking at concept art, where that's going to speak a million times more than what we ever could. And so as soon as we release the first piece of concept art and everyone can look at the Jason model that's in there, the people that are very passionate about Friday the 13th can instantly pick apart something that's not right. There have been in each one of the films, Jason looks a little different because they either used a different actor or the artist that created Jason's mask did a little subtle difference to it. How many holes are in the mask, like things like that. All those things matter. And usually people just think they have one picture in their mind when you say Jason Voorhees, there's one shot that sort of shoots into your mind. To a hardcore fan, there's like 13 or 14 that pop into their mind real quick. Like, well, which one do you mean? Jason 7 or do you mean Jason 3? Because that couldn't be more dramatically more different. And so to the hardcore fan base, we come out first guns blazing with, bam, here's our concept art for Friday the 13th. To someone who's not a fan, they go, cool art. To someone who is a fan, they're like zooming in and looking at like the belt on the side of the mask that attaches. Like where it hits, is it a little above the ear? Is it on the ear? Because that's precisely how it was in the film. Like that matters. So that's the first step, is a picture's worth 1,000 words, so we hit them with that. And then the next step after that is we get into the comments section right there with them, and we're discussing things that we want to do with the game, reasons why we made the choices that we made for the game, and then you back that up with more footage from the game itself, be it environmental fly-throughs. Like we have some videos like that where they're showing off like what does the campground actually look like. We use a lot of post-processing effects in the actual game world itself to make it look like film did at that time. We spent a long time studying basically parts 1, 2, and 3 of the Friday the 13th series, because when Sean Cunningham shot that first one, he had a micro budget. He had next to no money for lighting. Because you're in a campground, there's not much electricity, so he had to be frugal and smart how he used lights. And so we study all those things frame by frame and then replicate that in the world. and that's the power of Unreal Engine allows us to do that, which is the engine the game is built in, that we can do things with lights and do things with post-processing to give it a film grade, to give it, some of the colors themselves look a little faded, a little washed out. All those little layers of subtlety that whenever, to a hardcore fan, when they stand back and look at it, they think, it actually looks like I'm watching one of the movies because of the way that we meticulously sorted through what sticks out in the films and what matters in the films. They use a lot of primary colors in the first couple of movies too because, again, they had inadequate lighting. So to make characters pop, to make scenes pop, they use a lot of reds and yellows and greens and things like that. To the untrained eye, or no one that knew that, that's just going to sort of go right over their head when they're watching the movie. But as soon as you start lifting these layers and peeling these layers back, you start to see more about it. You start to understand the reasons why they did it, and it becomes part of the signature of what makes a Friday the 13th film what it is. And just slasher movies as a whole, there's a lot of them that took from that same sort of MO because Sean was one of the first to do that. So it's taking that awesome palette and being able to paint that digitally. Fans immediately recognize and pick up on that.
And I think you guys also, that's sort of being authentic to the film is very evident in the way that you presented it. I also wanted to ask you guys a little bit about your video for the Kickstarter campaign. It's for people who have run campaigns or run a lot of them. The video ultimately is probably the most important component in terms of spreading the word. There's also some rules of thumb which people often break. One being keep it really short and simple. And you guys have a 9-minute long video, which, to be honest, like if someone were to tell me that, oh man, that's not a good idea. No one's going to talk for 5 minutes. It's a captivating amount of content there, and you did a really great job with it. I'm wondering if you could just take us into that process. What were you trying to present in that video? Why did you make it so long? Why was it important that you had all of that different information in the video?
Well, Randy and I went back and forth on this
a lot.
Before even the cameras even turned on, we were discussing like how much should we be covering? How long should these videos actually be? And we would, Randy, how many Kickstarters have you contributed to in the past?
It's over 100 now. I believe it's 102, 103.
Right. So he's sort of a walking encyclopedia in terms of best and worst practices, and he's he was really pushing like, man, long videos, I don't know, like they don't necessarily do so well on Kickstarter, but the more that he started seeing more into the world of horror fans and knowing that it's almost an insatiable appetite that people have for horror, especially whenever you have the icons that built their childhood setting in front of them. When you have the Tom Savini and you have the Kane Hodder, and they're just joking and cutting up with each other, that's something that it's priceless to those people. They want to see that because it humanizes their heroes. They love that, and we wanted to make sure that the fans saw them the same way that we see them. They're passionate creatives just like we are. They're also just some guys hanging out, and we wanted to bring that and show that. And yeah, there was a lot of discussion about how long should this be, but at the end of the day, we kept pushing and saying, I don't think we need to keep trimming. Like, it's a strong video, and yes, it's very long, and there's going to be some people that watch the first 30 seconds of it and go, okay, either they made their decision or they haven't. But it's the guys that stick around. Like whenever I go and look at like real-time metrics on what's happening on the Kickstarter site, there's over 150 people there at any given second when I go to it, and those are people that have already contributed. Like, I know that is. They're hanging out. They become our brand ambassadors. They're inside the comments helping us out. They're helping us out because of the content and the care that we brought to it. A lot of that falls on Randy's shoulders. I mean, we shot all these videos, we got all this content, and it was handed to him, and it was up to him of where they were placed, when they were placed, how you not only how you give it to them, but then how you communicate with the audience about it later, because they watch those videos and they all have questions about it, and they're like, what happened then? What happened this? And Randy was there in the videos, so of course he can get in and answer it. So so that was a very long answer to your question, but yeah, long videos usually don't do so well, but I think we sort of bucked the trend there a little bit.
Let me just sort of pivot on that, Randy. Then I think that you are, as a backer and someone that's running clearly a very successful campaign right now, you've tapped into a big key of crowdfunding, which is the community building aspect, and sort of letting the crowd not only give you money but be a part of this thing. Can you maybe share some insights for people that are thinking about crowdfunding their own project? Like, how do you approach that and still sort of have it be your own thing but give it over to the crowd? How do you sort of bridge that gap?
So for me, it's been a very natural kind of process. Forget my voice; it's been going out because I've been talking a lot lately. But yeah, it's been a very natural process. Interacting with the fans and being genuine, right? That's the goal. Like Wes has done it. We've all done it. When you launch a game or when you launch a Kickstarter campaign, you need to be there and listening and responding to every question that comes through. So I've made it one of my most important things to do every day is to respond to each and every message that gets sent to me through the Kickstarter messaging. And there are a ton, right? So by having those interactions and staying very genuine and never using like form responses, like I hate form responses. I think people saw that we were real people, not only in the videos. That certainly helped kind of get us to where we are, but they started realizing there are people here manning this day and night that really care enough to answer every single question, to interact with the fans, to do fun little polls, and just throw out quick factoids and stuff like that. Whatever they want to do, I'm ready to do it. Like it's been a blast to interact with everybody, and I think that's the biggest thing is get in, have fun, and be genuine with every one of your backers because they can turn into the brand ambassadors that you need. And obviously, we have an advantage that we have Friday the 13th, but I think anybody to run a successful campaign, you have to show the human side of your campaign, the people behind your product, whatever it is.
That's a beautiful answer. We're running low on time, and I just wanted to sort of pick your brains on, can you share one or two things that you've learned over the course of doing this Kickstarter, whether it's about the community that existed or about how to run a campaign or about yourself, what goes into running a campaign? What's something that you've learned as part of doing this? Wes, let's start with you.
Well, what I've learned is that, and it's sort of, it's going to be tied more to the license itself, sort of, and not like as the big bubble of Kickstarter, but that if you look at Friday the 13th, the film series, the fans, the community, that's what built that. They're the ones that kept, talking about it, renting it, going back to the movies and seeing it, dragging their friend to come see it. That's what built that whole franchise up. And so it's for me, it's interesting to see history sort of repeating itself, and it's right now. And it starts day one right here in the Kickstarter. That the community there's already a groundswell. There's like 4,500 comments in our Kickstarter, and we're talking to every single one of those guys. So to me, it's what I'm learning is that actually you can sort of look back at history and be like, hey, look, that in that form of media in film, like the fans built that. Look where we are right now with this game. Like this is so awesome that you actually can see it sort of repeat itself. Here comes the community again to come in and support this, and they're going to be there with us, fighting through this and getting this thing to launch day, and then to continue the support around that. So it's seeing that and understanding the importance of each and every single one of those commenters when they get in there, because at the end of the day, there is zero difference between me and the other guy on the other side of the keyboard that's saying, man, I'm a fan and I love Friday the 13th. You know what? I am too, and I just happen to be lucky enough to get the opportunity for one time to drive this car around the block. Like I get that shot, and it's awesome. So I love to to talk to those fans and interact with them, and that's incredibly important to me personally.
Great, Randy.
Yeah, on my side of things, the biggest lesson I've learned is there is never too much planning that you can do before a Kickstarter, right? We had 2 or 3 months of planning on this one, and I wish we would have started 6 months ago on everything, right? Unfortunately, we didn't have the luxury to do so, but oh man, Like it was, even with almost 3 months, it was a mad scramble to bring everything together. There are some deficiencies and warnings I can talk about for Kickstarter in general. Like right now, you need to really, really think about and plan out all of your reward tiers completely, right? We've been adding some later as we go, and it's very hard to do. It's very confusing for the end backers, and also we just recently instituted add-ons, and I really wish Kickstarter had a way to be able to select multiple tiers to back at, and then also select add-ons in the initial campaign. And there are other people chasing the heels of Kickstarter right now, so I think Kickstarter really needs to get on it and actually fix those things. But the best thing you can do right now to mitigate all those issues with all the confusion that can be added by doing add-ons in your campaign is just pre-plan everything, try to put them in classic tiered rewards, reward tiers, and actually get them up at the start of the campaign, and try not to add anything, because it does add a lot of confusion and people have questions. There's always going to be some piece of text that you missed that doesn't describe exactly the thing that might be in the fans' heads. Like, what are we actually getting? You didn't specify it exactly the same way as you did in this other tier. So is this different? Even though it's not, they see a difference. So again, consistency and planning and just ensuring you have all your reward tiers planned are some of the biggest things you can do before you start.
That's really wonderful advice and things I tell people all the time. Yeah, you need as much time as possible, and for what it's worth, I think you guys are running a wonderful campaign, and I've noticed your interaction with the community, and I think that it's extremely strong. And I mentioned in another video I did that your timing, the way that you launched it, the press that you have been generating, even your rewards. Like I thought that your bring a friend to the end. I thought that was a great idea for a reward, and allowing people to share this game with people.
It's a multiplayer game, so why not?
Yeah, it's a multiplayer game, and it makes a ton of sense. So just thank you guys so much for coming. For anyone that's interested, Friday the 13th, the game will be up on Kickstarter up until November, Friday the 13th.
And not a coincidence on the date there.
Not at all.
Very planned.
And so that's going to be there, and I encourage people to check it out, especially if it looks like an amazing game. I don't even think you need to be a fan of the film series to appreciate a fun survival game. Thank you guys for joining us. If people miss this and watch this video later, where can they find out more about the game?
They can go to f13game.com.
Okay,
and
great.
And also check out our Kickstarter, of course.
We'll put that in the credits so people can find it as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, guys, they're currently $100,000 away from their goal, but I imagine they'll get there, and so don't miss this great opportunity to be a part of it from the beginning.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. And this has been another episode of Funded Friday. If you want to learn more about other crowdfunding campaigns, we post a new Funded Friday every week, and you can find out more about our documentary on crowdfunding called Kickstarted at kickstartedmovie.com. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.